Thanks for sticking around. I love sharing this part of who we are and what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you a lot of videos that kind of walk us through it. But today is kind of the whys of camp, not just Rainbow Trail, but camp in general. I'm gonna do it through our lens, but I think you'll hear a lot of familiar things. But we really look at that. A lot of people say, "Well, you serve kids, right?" And I went, well, that's one of the groups we serve. But I think we serve kids. I think we serve parents. I think we serve churches, congregations. But I think we also serve our staff. And so we're gonna walk through all of those groups, a lot of the whys of why camp is what it is and why it's important to the faith development of our church. Not just youth, but of our church. So we're gonna start with a video Synod put together about 10 years ago. But I still use it because it's really good. It has a lot of Sky Ranch, a lot of Rainbow Trail in it. But Synod did a whole series of extra ministries that are part of, I don't want to call them agencies because I don't think we're an agency, but some of the ministries that are part of Synod's ministry that with a different perspective, but they spent some money on this. I think they got a grant. So do Synod video first. Wish they'd do another one. It's 10 years old, but it's still good. I mean, the content's awesome. So the Rocky Mountain Synod, I think, is super fortunate. I've said it probably 5 times this morning as I was talking to people. Super fortunate to have 2 awesome camps in their Synod. That is not the standard out there. If you go to God's country in the Midwest, they may have as many as 15 that are in a Synod, and they're all kind of duking it out for the same kids and all that. And it's hard. It's hard to do ministry there, and have it be sustainable. We're a monster Synod geographically, right? We go all the way to the Mexico border, other side of Utah, top of Wyoming. So we don't have as many people as they have out there. But I think what we have found is that between the 2 camps, there's something for everybody, and it's just a matter. You got to find your spot. And so our job, Brad and I both talked about this, our job is to get in as many congregations as we can so that everybody knows all their options. And then you find the one that works for you. Sky Ranch is perfect for a whole lot of people. Some people it's not. Same with Rainbow Trail. And what we find is typically the other one has something for those people. And it's just cool that it works that way. So my hope today is that you will get a clear understanding where outdoor ministry fits in the overall church and into our ministry. And I think the bottom line for us is that we view ourselves as extensions of what happens here. We're not a standalone. If we're standalone, we should shut our gates, be done, because we're no different than a Y camp. And those aren't bad things, but we're not serving the purpose of why we exist. We should be an extension of the ministry that happens there. Things should happen at camp. There's things that can happen at camp that can't happen here. But there's things that can happen here that can't happen at camp. And so it's the blending of the two. I remember confirmation. You know, we memorized, we filled out books. I don't know what your confirmation was like. But when I went to confirmation camp, all the stuff we talked about all of a sudden started making sense. It started sticking because you're living it. And oh, that's what we talked about in confirmation class, isn't it? Yep, it is. It's exactly what we talked about in confirmation class. And so to be able to have both work together, I think what we bring, I think Sky brings this as well, is when kids come on site, they get opportunities to be in leadership roles in a really safe place. We're going to talk about that safe. But when that can happen, you get to try stuff on for the first time, right? You know, and that first time of anything you do is kind of scary, right? But if it can be at a safe place where you know people are going to support you, not laugh at you, but with you, then you try it on. And then when you come back here and Pastor Gail says, hey, have you thought about being a lector or assisting minister or whatever, hopefully they go, well, I did something like that at camp. That now we're doing ministry together. I tell our adult leaders when they bring their kids there, you know, they say, what do you want us to do? And I said, I want you to do everything those kids are doing. I said, you can sit on the front porch here and enjoy the week, and you're going to be refreshed and renewed to go home. But if you will plug in with those kids, My goal is that when those kids get home and they get into a tough situation and they can't go to mom or dad, your name's the next one that pops in their head. And if that's happened, now we have bridged faith life into everyday life. We had a youth director that took his business cards and laminated them, put them on made luggage tags out of them, basically. And that was what they did to start the year, every year at their church. They gave their kids a luggage tag to put on their pack, and they said, put it on there so you have it all the time. So you can call me anytime. Well, not everybody's going to do that, but man, you see the connection. That's faith stepping into the everyday journey of a middle school student, and that's a pretty big deal, I think. Okay, so we are Lutheran to the core. We preach grace theology across the board. We want this place to be a safe place for kids in every sense of the word, physically, mentally, spiritually. I tell our staff a story. I went to a Y camp when we lived in Iowa, and it was a great experience. But we went on the big camp out on Tuesday night, and they put us in a big army tent. Probably wasn't as big as I remember it, right? But it seemed like it was just enormous. All these kids piled in it. But before we went to bed, they told the story about the donkey lady that lived around there. It was a woman that had the head of a donkey, and she ate small children. Well, you know the intent. The intent was to didn't want us to go outside the tent. Well, I did not go out of the tent that night. But that's still with me, 50 years later. And to me, that's not creating a safe zone for kids. So that's not part of who we are. But to be able to create those safe places for kids to be kids, give them a good framework to keep them physically safe, but also to open the door for them to be spiritually safe where they can ask the hard questions. Because they have them, and too often they get squelched. And so we want to give them a chance to ask those questions. And our counselors, they're not going to always know the answer, right? But we have adult leaders, pastors that come to be part of camp. I think we have as many as 15 a week that are on site that come with their kids. They're plugged into those Bible studies. So now, once again, we're getting that tie back to the church at home of saying, I don't know the answer. What do you think, Pastor Gail? And now there's a chance to, or it comes up at dinner that night when Pastor Gail sits down with them and said, what did you guys talk about in Bible study today? Well, we just Bible studies all day then, because it just keeps kind of reoccurring because it's in conversations or something really cool kind of stuck with kids. That's what we hope that camp can be for kids. So, as I said at the beginning, we serve 4 different groups, or we view ourselves as serving 4 different groups. First one are those campers. The goal is let's get them there, so we do promotions and things like that, send brochures out, get them signed up. We are full this summer. We have 7 of our 9 weeks are full, and the other 2 weeks we have 60 spots left, and we will be full for the summer. It's unbelievable. People are just ready to be back at camp. Some of the things that we have found that kids are looking for out of that experience, this is not an end-all list, but I think these are some of the real important ones that keep them coming back. It's got to be fun. They got to meet new friends. Have input into planning what's going on, that we aren't just giving them a schedule and say, here's what you're doing, but they actually get to shape a little bit of what the program looks like, and take some leadership into it. They have great food. We have awesome food at Rainbow Trail. Chris has been with us 16 years now, I think. And that is her ministry, and it gets harder every year. There's a new allergy. There's a new, we moved from getting rid of peanuts and all that stuff, and then now soy is the new. That's why everybody was moving to soy, and now we're moving away from soy because that can't. But that is her ministry, and that's how she works with kids, and kids that have gone to other camps, that specialize in it. They said we were taken care of the best we've ever been taken care of in this place. Here's the reality from a director's standpoint: if the food's bad, You know what they're going to talk about in the car going home? The bad food. Okay? It's what's going to happen. But if the food's good, that's not the subject in the car. It's everything else that happened that week. But Chris even weaves her food into the program. You know, kids want to do a luau or something on the sand of the volleyball court. We don't even have ham in our menu, but somehow Chris gets ham, and we do ham and pineapple and all that. It's letting kids take the lead in that and really guide adults. It's kind of weird. Guide adults to what we're going to do, and man, there's some powerful things that happen with that. Let's see, spiritual hunger. I think this generation, more than any generation, is looking for something to hang their hat on. It's tough. And the last 2 years we're going to be living with this for a long time, for kids coming out of what the last 2 years have done. The lack of socialization, just getting them to be back together, but learn how to live together again in community. It's going to take a while. Schools are already experiencing some of the issues with that. So let camp be that place where we can try it on. It's a little what I was talking about in the sermon today. Camp's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but how do we deal with the imperfections? That's the faith piece of what we do. If we can help kids forgive each other and reconcile a relationship, and for them to be able to actually be friends again during the week, and maybe lifelong friends because of that experience. Well, that's special stuff. That's part of what camp does. Okay, sense of adventure. That it's not all putting them in a foam room and hoping they don't get hurt. There's going to be some adventure, hiking and rafting and things like that, but you still do it in a safe way, so we know they're going to be taken care of. One of the things that we have emphasized over the last 20 years, we kind of shifted to this, is for our staff to really take time identifying gifts in kids. We talk about a toolbox that everybody has to serve. We all have a toolbox. You have a toolbox. But when somebody says, you are a great public speaker, or you have an empathetic heart, your toolbox just changed, because somebody's identified a gift in you that maybe you didn't know. Well, you're going to serve differently in the world. So we set the goal with our staff to try to find one or two things with each camper in their cabin that they didn't know about themselves. Something as simple as you have a great sense of humor, or you're just a fun personality to be around. You laugh a lot. Just naming things about themselves. And a lot of them, they're going to say, yeah, I know that about myself, but hopefully we land on one or two, right? And if that happens and then they come back to camp for 5 years, look at that toolbox. It's completely different than it was when they came the first time. And they end up on our staff because of that. We just finished interviews with staff, and the last guy I interviewed said, man, Dean Klinkerman, he said, that was Dean's gift. He sat down with every one of us during the week and said, these are things that I love about who you are. Every single one of his kids. Man, if I get every staff to do that with them, that's a game changer. It's a game changer. But now my staff has experienced it. My staff will do it because it was part of their experience of being a camper, which is exactly what we want happening. All right, around great Christian role models. I think we hired great staff. I think both camps do. I think we hired great staff. I think we train them well. Those are, I think, my two biggest gifts. I think we select well, but I think we train well. And because of that, people have awesome experiences at Rainbow Trail because there's a consistency that's going to happen year after year after year. All right, and then finally we create an environment where faith is lived 24/7. I think that's a lot of the reason that kids come is they don't know that. But faith can be fun. Hopefully they get that at camp. That it doesn't have to be all, rigid and you can't do anything and have any fun. Camp's fun. But it's all in the context of a faith environment. Okay. The second group are parents, probably the hardest group to figure out why they send their kids to camp. But the clear indicator whether we hit the mark or not is whether they come back the next year. Camp's not for every camper, right? You want it to be, but the reality is it's not. But if they come back the next year, hopefully we hit some marks of what parents want the kids. We hit the kids' mark, but we also hit the parents' marks as well. There's not a single set of characteristics for adults, for parents, but these are the ones that we see as the biggies. That their child is loved unconditionally, that they're exposed to great Christian role models, that they learn a little bit more about their faith while they're there. And this is one, I think, the biggie, that they're treated the same as every other kid, but they're treated special. Maybe I'll flip that the other way, that they're treated special, which means every other kid is treated the same way.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the camp at all, really. So do parents come all the time, or is it just kids?
It's just kids.
Oh, okay.
It's kids. But they're the ones that sign the check. Oh, okay. And so the reality is, if we're not hitting the mark of what parents want, we've had some crazy reasons why people send their kids to camp. We had a couple one time that said, we're finalizing our divorce. We're going to have our kids at camp so we can get it done. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I just ache for those kids. But most are saying, I want this to be part of the faith development of my child. Just like confirmation is, just like Sunday school or faith formation, whatever those things are. Yeah.
There are adults there, though. There's the staff, the college-age staff, but then a lot of churches will send either a pastor or a youth director or sometimes a parent to kind of be an adult. Oh, and then we also have camp grandparents that come. And they hook in with the groups too. So it could be usually about 10 or so adults for whatever reasons, for various reasons, that are there, but they're not hanging with their own kids for the most part.
Yeah.
With the exception of confirmation.
Right, I'll be there with confirmation.
Yeah. You would stay with your kids for at least the Bible study portions.
Right.
Yep.
I look forward to that. Well, as a parent, as I said this morning, we sent our kids beginning kindergarten, it used to be. The summer after kindergarten, they could go for Sunday through Wednesday or Wednesday through Saturday. And we took them, and then they went always. And as a pastor's family, I would go to closing worship and sit there and blubber through the whole thing, cry through the whole thing. Seeing my children interact with their campers, with their friends, with the staff, with the college staff, with the people, and being a part of it. And I think we gave so much as a pastor's family. And the kids gave so much and went through things, as you can imagine, that to have them just be treated specially like everyone else at camp. And I'd sit there and cry through the whole worship service, tell them every year, you don't know what this means, and we do, but thank you. And it's just a fabulous experience for our kids, and I'm so excited that some of ours will get to go this year.
Is it time for me to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Since we're talking about parents, I wanted to tell you my experience as a parent. I think most of us, our kids are too old, but you can apply this to your grandchildren. So Alex went to Rainbow Trail for 4 years. He started going to camp with a friend of his who invited him to a church camp, a different church camp. And because I'm nothing if not open-minded, I said, you go. And he did that for 2 years, and I started to hear things he was learning. So after the second year, I said, oh, I've proved my open-minded chops. You're going to a Lutheran camp. But when he was that age, going to camp wasn't something that was being promoted or anything that was being done here at Lutheran Church of the Master. So there were no kids that he knew going to any Lutheran camps. So this was very scary for him, but I was being really mom stubborn. At that time, Sky Ranch was going through some really hard times. so they weren't on the table. They've since been totally revitalized, so don't take this was a long time ago. So anyway, I went on the internet, because that's what you do, right? And I found the Rainbow Trail website, looked good, so I wrote my check, sent it in, and I told them, you're going to Rainbow Trail all by yourself. I mean, I'll drive you, but you won't know anything. And all I knew was what I saw on the internet. So I'm driving into camp, and I've never prayed so hard in my life, because we're heading west from Canyon City. And if you've ever headed west from Canyon City, you know that it is not mountainous. It is ranch land with cows. And he kept saying, Mom, you told me this camp was going to be in the mountains. And I'm gripping the steering wheel saying, well, yes, Alex, it's in the mountains. It's really beautiful. And I'm praying to God, please, God, don't make me out to be a liar. So the last minute, you ride straight up the mountains. The camp is beautiful. It's gorgeous. And he will tell you, though, now at 27, how terrified he was to go to camp where he didn't know anybody. He didn't tell me that at the time, but he tells me that now. But here's the great thing. He wasn't alone, because as soon as he got to camp, he made friends. So he was not alone. And it was scary, but it was bravery building, because he learned that he could be thrown into a situation and he could make friends, that he could be loved and appreciated. And he went back eagerly for the next 3 years until, he grew up and had to get a job and all that. So I'm telling you this because we're a small congregation, and when we send our kids to camp, they're not going with a big group like they did in the olden days. But it's still an awesome thing, because they get there, they're loved, they're surrounded, they have friends, they make friends.
Yep.
And it's life-changing in, that little way. So thank you for hearing my story, because, I've never prayed so hard in my life. My prayers were answered.
It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. I'll touch on one other piece, and then we'll keep rolling. We're a 6-day camp. We go through Saturday morning. Most camps have moved to finishing on Friday. And we've had that long discussion with our board. Let me tell you why. This is all about the whys. There's a lot of intentionality in what we do. We look at a week of camp. Sunday, it's scary. If you've not been there before and you don't have... So the group's just starting to meld, right? And then Monday, they get past the superficial stuff. We hike on Tuesday. They're out hiking together. They're starting to develop some pretty close friendships. By the time they hit Wednesday, right? Bible studies are richer, fuller. They trust each other more, right? If they're going home Friday, Thursday you got to start getting them ready to go home. Going home Saturday, I get one more day. We call it the sweet spot. Wednesday, Thursday are the sweet spot. And we see more growth in kids in those 2 days than we see the rest of the week, because it takes a while to get them to that point. So we talked about moving to Friday, and our board said, let's stay with what we're doing. That extra day is important. And so we are a 6-day camp, so just so you're aware of that. All right, third group, congregations, this bunch. And your testament of what the importance of sending. It's the combination of everything that happens. We do want those pastors to come. We don't charge adults that are coming with their kids from your congregation. We don't charge them, because that's that partnership. We want them there because I want that relationship to be different. If they're going to camp with you, if you're around for a while, that relationship's going to be different when you come home. You got inside jokes that none of them have, right? It's been the experience. You may laugh together, you may cry together at camp. But out of all of that, you have a shared experience that's walking back into your congregation. That person in the pulpit is different now. It's not as scary. Not that you're a scary person, but it's not as scary. And if we can help soften those edges so that those relationships can be deeper. I want pastors, over a youth director. It's not that I don't want youth directors, but here's the deal, the reality. You know the length of a youth director being in a church now? Average length, 18 months. 18 months, not even 2 years anymore. Pastors, it's between 5 and 7, typically, which is kind of the sabbatical. 5 years is the new sabbatical, but it used to be 7. But at least that much. Well, if we're picking up kids in middle school or upper elementary, that gets them almost out of high school. And man, those are the years I want a partnership with a relationship with a pastor that's going to walk with my kid. And I think over and over again, if we can help make those things happen, open the door for you guys to be with us, to do ministry together down there. Our Bible studies, we stay theologically more sound when we have a pastor that's sitting in there with our college age folks, right? I love those guys, but they're college age. But I think that's an important piece to it, that we keep our theology sound in those studies as well. And so to have those people there is huge to the overall success of what a week of camp can be like. Let's see. I think I hit on the... I think that's... Okay, let's do Michelle video if we can. That'd be great. Cool. All right, thanks for hanging with me. The last group is summer staff. I think it was 95 that I came to a new realization in my ministry. When I came to Rainbow Trail in 89, I said, man, we're going to give kids the absolute best experience that we can. And that was my whole goal. And when around 94, 95, I started realizing that we were neglecting a group that or not neglecting, but just not spending enough time on a group that it was just as important as those camper groups, and that was our staff. So we've kind of shifted gears, and what we have found is that by focusing on that group a little bit more, we do one-on-ones with just about every staff member every week. Somebody does. One of our director team does. Not evaluative one-on-ones, but how you doing? How's life? These are the gifts I'm seeing in you. What are you looking down long-term down the pike for a career? Do you know you have gifts in this area? They're powerful conversations, but what we have found is because we are focusing on the training of them, but also things that are not just about camp, but about life, those kids are having even better experiences because we've trained that, worked with that staff in a different way. I think we're in the 80s, somewhere in the 80s and 90s of people that have gone into full-time ministry off of our summer staff. And some of those are people that just totally shifted gears. There's all kinds of things like that. We had one that was going to be a roller coaster engineer. I remember his interview. He teaches school now because he found he had a gift with kids. We had another one that was a illumination engineer coming out of CU. And now he works with, I think he's a principal at some of the inner city school districts in Denver now. But that was after he went and spent time at Columbia in New York and worked with youth in Harlem because he found he had an amazing gift with kids that he had never been had been untapped until he worked at camp. So his whole career just shifted. And we have one that we just went to his wedding past fall, and I don't even know where he was headed before, but he's a pastor now was in DC and now is going to be in Churchwide, starting pretty soon. But it's fun to see the path. It's what I said in the other video. It's like I do think it's my job. If I see gifts, my job is to lay them out there and let the Spirit work. It's not that we're going to shift anything. I want to share this video with you. We're going to do real quick how we do camp, and then we're going to close with our promotional video for the year. But this is a new one this year. Is staff talking about why they work for us. We used it for recruiting this year. It was an awesome tool. So Anyway, this is an awesome video. It just shares people that have worked for us talking about that experience. One that we had to convince, he felt like he had to do an internship. We hear that over and over again, that schools are just hammering them, they got to get an internship. And he said, I learned more things here than I would have ever learned on my internship. He's doing it this year, but he's graduating this year. It's the last thing he's doing before he graduates. But he said he worked for us for 2 summers. Once we got him there, he got hooked. Powerful though. So how do we do camp? We have about 100 kids each week. We break it into 5 groups that we call villages. Each of those, so about 20 kids in a village. Break those into 3 cabin groups. 3 counselors working with those. So that's a working unit, and there's 5 of those. Every day, they will sit down and plan most of what they will do during the day. Key things that will happen every day: we'll worship twice a day, we have Bible study every day, 3 awesome meals every day. But around that, there's lots of time for kids to plan the campy kinds of stuff that's going on, right? So simple decisions, but some powerful things happen with that. Those kids make that schedule, those 5 villages come to staff meeting, they bring one of their campers, and those campers are the ones that put that schedule together. So Monday morning, I can't tell you where anybody's going to be, but when staff meeting is over, I can tell you where every single camper is going to be every hour of the day. So it's no different than other camps other than how we get there. But the kids are super involved in the planning and creating of that time. And so every day they have input into shaping the villages doing what they want to do during the day. But one of the cool things that happens in that meeting is, say one village has done archery 3 days and one has just been struggling to try to get it into their schedule. Well, to have a camper lean over to his counselor and say, man, let's let them have it. We've done it 3 times. They haven't been able to do it. That's not a camp thing. That's a life thing. That kid camper's getting a bigger picture of what's going on. Not only are they changing their schedule, they got to go back to their group and tell them, hey, I changed our schedule for this other village to be able to do something. Everybody learns out of that. And if those kind of things are happening all through camp, and kids are getting to make decisions, not big decisions, archery, wood carving, those kind of things. Nonetheless, they're making lots of decisions. So they get some practice at doing that. So when they get to those hard decisions that life throws at them, they've got a little bit of practice of just what it means to kind of work through a decision of that type. Okay? One day of the week, they are what we call Village of the Day. Kelly mentioned that in the video, VOD. Where in addition to planning their day, they're also in charge of the worship experiences for the camp. Their counselors work with them. They design it, they lead it, and implement the whole thing. I want campers up front, praying out loud, reading scripture, leading songs. I don't think they even realize they're in front of about 150 people. I could have never done that when I was a little kid, but it's easy because somebody believes that they can do it, and they're out there, and they just do it. It's camp. But those are the things that we hope spill back in from that. So we teach our staff to lead, we call lead from the middle, instead of being the up front all the time. Our whole design as staff is gently shoving kids out there when they're a little scared, supporting them, encouraging them to be able to do that. Staff gets a chance to be up front at other times, but for the most part, it's really focused on kids and the experiences that kids are having. Okay, so that's kind of the style of program. I love it. It's experiential for kids. Their hands are wet in that program. They're making decisions every single day and getting to be a part of it. All right. Big things that are happening in Rainbow Trail world. We're in the middle of a land exchange. We've been in since 1997, trying to get it done. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We hope to sign our agreement to initiate the actual physical exchange next month. And then 18 months, we should be done the end of 23, and we'll own our site. We've been on leased Forest Service land forever. And it's a win-win for everybody, I think, in this. It's been kind of fun to watch the energy around go from 17 acres to 101 acres. They have a difference. So a whole new master plan, all that's what we're working on right now. So that's one of the big things that's happening right now. But summer camp is going to be busy. Our staff, we have 60 of our 66 staff in place as of Friday. And excited, we'll start training with them. We do a spring training with them starting the end of March. That's online. That just gets them ready to go. So when we hit camp in May, we're ready to really fly. So, all right, Jamie, think there's any chance on that last video, or?
We'll get through at least a little bit of it.
Okay,
I know that for sure.
let's do a little bit of that, and we'll call it good. And we'll see if you have any questions. If you are a reader, I've got our philosophy written out here. If you want to take one of those, they don't do me any good going home with me. If you prefer that format. There we go. Any questions?
What's the end?
We do intro camp. Nellie runs that program. That's that kindergarten expertise, right? That first experience, if their first experience is awesome, right? Then they'll come to camp for 12 years until they're on our staff. So we want that to be the best. So entering second grade, second and third grade.
But then we have family camp and some babies.
Yeah.
Babies, about 6 months old.
Like fresh babies.
Fresh.
Time we took our oldest, he was 6 weeks
How many
old.
dogs?
What's that?
How many dogs? I saw
Oh, man, I think there are
Last year there were 5 or 6. This year I think there's only going to be 3.
3, yep.
Well, maybe 4.
Yeah. Hannah's won't be around very much, but
Golden retrievers and a lot of Labradors.
yeah.
That's a big part of the camp too.
It is, man. My intro weeks, junior weeks, our dog never stays with us. He's always sleeping in a cabin.
She has her own ministry. She
yeah,
goes
it's
and
pretty
sleeps in
powerful.
the cabins that people register for her and you check her out.
Yeah.
Off she goes to work every night.
It's fun.
But kids get homesick
Yeah.
sometimes, and if the dog can help, then the dog can help.
Yep. Yep. If we can help them get over that while they're with us, we've helped them for life. Some people say send them home. Well, send them home. The next place is going to have to try to figure it out. So see if we can help them get through it. Well, and that's part of why we have camp grandparents too. That's been magic. They find their spot where they'll hang out with, whether it's wood carving or arts and crafts, the thing that's kind of their specialty. And they'll be there all day, and the kids will just rotate through. So our goal for them is that they've spent time with every village during a day. But Ruth is 89 now, and she's still coming.
She's been there for 45 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
She hasn't missed a year in 45 years.
No, she comes family camp for a week, and then she comes 2 weeks of youth camp, I think.
And then when Katrina, our youngest, was there, whoever was the grandparents, it was the grandpa that wrote her when she was off at college. He would, and then on Facebook, he would send her messages, and he's passed away.
Yep, that was Grandpa
Yeah,
Fred.
she cried when he died.
Yeah.
Because
He made a point of learning every single kid's, and he was there usually 3 weeks out of the summer too, and his thing
That was his gift.
doing high ropes with kids, but then his big thing was to stand in line with them when they're registering. He would get to know every single kid's name by the time they registered. And you call them by name.
All week.
And, yeah. If everybody has their thing, that might not be everybody's
Yeah.
thing. Somebody else might be really into wood carving, like the one-on-one with a quiet, so they'll hang out in the wood carving hut or.
But sometimes that's the bridge that gets, younger kids that are a little bit homesick, to have somebody that's like their grandparent.
Ruth's a hugger. That's her big thing.
Yep.
So.
thank you so much.
Yep.
Shall we pray for them and for their ministry? Here, touch you. Loving and gracious God, oh my goodness, we just give you so much praise and thanks, Lord, for allowing us to have this ministry at Rocky Mountain Synod. For Dave and for Nellie, we pray that you pour your blessings upon them continually and upon their children as well. For this camp season coming up, for all of those youth that are coming in who, this is different times, Lord, I don't have to tell you that. But we thank you, Lord, for allowing this, for lives to be changed, to be touched, for people to know that they're valued and loved. We give you thanks. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around.